Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back. Happy last day of Black History Month as well. This is Faith Family Focus. I am one of your co-hosts, Faith Suggs, former Duke Women's basketball graduate and current CEO and founder of Brand by Faith, a social media digital storytelling company for our clients. And this wonderful man next to me is my father, Shaver Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, and has also served as VP on the executive board with the RPFPC and the NFLPA Chicago chapter. Good morning, Dad. How are you?
Good morning, Faith. Nice sunny day here in Chicago.
Same.
Yes. I like your shirt. Let me see the front of it. What does it say? Okay, State. All right. So who do they play tonight? They play Texas Tech.
So I'm trying to spread positive cheer. Positive cheer. My Duke ladies lost last night to UNC.
Oh, yeah,
so I just need a win, you know? Need a win. The big Duke UNC game is this week.
That's going to be historic because it's Coach K's protocol, right? Yep.
It's always the last regular season game. And it's also always senior night. And it's the second. They always go UNC first and then finish at Duke. So
nice.
I've only seen them win at UNC win at Duke one time when I was in school. So we'll see how this goes. Because normally they try to win on senior day. That's what I do. But yeah, so I need a win. I need a win or something. I don't know if you saw, but Gonzaga got knocked off by St. Mary's. What is it, yesterday or Saturday? Upset. Not really an upset, but it's an upset for Gonzaga because they're supposed to go through the – I don't know, because they have that terrible league. Who's in their league? Gonzaga, Pepperdine, St. Mary's.
They're always different.
Yeah. They should be winning that league. People had Gonzaga as their favorite. But St. Mary's looked pretty tough. So, I don't know. And it's always I saw something the other day, and I want to know what you think about this. They said we can't even call them upsets anymore because we're now at the point in the season where everybody has at least beat one ranked team. So many teams have gotten opportunity to be on the top 25 and then lost or beat or something like that. So it's like, do we even call them upsets anymore? I don't think so. You know what I mean? We saw Baylor lose to Oklahoma State before. We have seen Duke lose to so-and-so. We've seen UNC lose to so-and-so. You know what I mean? It's just all the blue bloods, they lose to somebody or they lose to each other, or Michigan State, who's not ranked, right, having a bad season, one of the worst of Izzo's career, just beat Purdue, who was number 4. So it's like, I don't know. Is there upsets anymore? Because would you call Michigan State an upset? That's still a powerhouse. You know what I mean? So
this is a topic for another day. The impact the portals are having, the free agencies having in the NFL. You see that in sports, there's been so much more parity and more competitiveness. You saw it in the NFL playoffs where any 4 or 6 teams could have won. I think you're going to be amazed by this year's NCAA tournament. It's going to be really, really exciting because there's a lot of teams that will be able to win this, and there'll be some upsets too. So I attribute it to the ability of players moving around, portal and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's going to be exciting.
I think so too. And what's interesting is because they expanded the league, right? They expanded the tournament, right? So there's more teams that can be in this year than ever before on both sides, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to probably see a couple of HBCUs in there. Normally the HBCU teams only get to play for a play-in, and their play-in game is normally like they got to play Duke. And it's like, all right, you know what I mean? So we're going to see something like that. We're going to see more representation probably from the A10, right? St. Bonaventure's, that group, right? So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. And that's why I suggest that nobody fills out a bracket. Don't do it to yourself. You cannot, after seeing this year and watching games and seeing who's winning, who's not winning, why people are losing, just don't. You know what I mean? You cannot correctly predict how this is going to go because I feel like every single game, while there's going to be some blowouts, every single game is going to be at least one half is going to be a battle. We've been seeing, and you know what's also interesting, and this could be because of transfer portal, but I keep saying this, Steph Curry's changed the game of basketball. We're shooting more threes ever before in the NCAA, right? And these kids are now making them. right? They're making them 6 feet off the line, 4 feet off the line, or they're going 6 for 7 from the 3-point line, right? They're shooting 8 threes, 7 threes. Teams are shooting at least 24 threes a game. The scores are higher. Comebacks are more real. So that's all I'm saying is you just don't know. You know what I mean? The game is changing. The transfer portal is making it more fair, but also the entire style and flow of how we play the game of basketball nowadays is completely different. So a comeback seemed a little more less realistic than it does in today's society, which is interesting.
Well, I'm excited about it.
I am too. And next week we can maybe, because it's going to be March, we can put down who we think is our top 4.
Yeah. Beginning March Madness month. Okay, cool.
March Madness for men and women. First year for women ever.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Do you know we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of Title IX?
Wow.
50 years.
Yeah. Well, I have a really good guest that we could have on the show that I think I sent that to you. That could be a wonderful guest talking about Title IX. But
We can.
we don't get too far into the weeds with all our other topics. I mean, we can actually have our show, and we've actually talked about 2 other shows that we could potentially have.
Good.
Coming up. So
No, we I think we have a lot of good stuff coming because March this summer is going to be very interesting for a lot of stuff.
Right.
Before we wanted to dive in today, I just want to keep saying it is the last day of Black History Month.
Yes.
We blinked and it's over. You know what I mean? But before we dive into that, we just wanted to, send our thoughts and prayers to everything that's happening in our world, because it's not just 2 countries, right? It's the entire world is mentally, emotionally, and physically impacted by the force of Russia right now on the country of Ukraine, and just
How about the insanity of Russia?
the insanity is fair. But there's people, and what's funny as I'm watching is that Russia's people, there's a lot of people protesting in the streets. There's a lot of people, we've seen a lot of athletes.
Been arrested. Yeah.
We've seen a lot of athletes speak out, right? Saying no war, please. It's not worth it.
I just saw this morning on the news here in Chicago, there's thousands of people in Ukrainian village here in Chicago that were protesting. It was wonderful to support.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because our prayers and thoughts are out to that country and the families and the moms and women and the kids. I mean, it's heartbreaking. So hopefully we can get through this.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
It is ridiculous.
Going through my mind right now, but we can't really talk about, because it could be another show, but it's just so sad. So hopefully we get through.
I did see something that was like, whenever we have moments like this in historical moments like this, I saw New York bars they stopped selling Russian vodka, right? So they said we'll start putting our own right? The other countries put their sanctions out already, right? But it's like we can still do things as people. It's beautiful because we're all connected in some sort of way. But we're not. We stopped selling and ordering the Russian vodka until peace has prevailed. So the little things, right? It's just do what we can do, pray, thoughts, donate money for travel, stuff like that is what we're working on. So,
Right.
Yeah, stuff.
So I like our show, Faith Family Focus. What episode is this, Faith? In our 2nd season?
9, I believe, of the 2nd season.
No, not that. Might be the Huddle. With Faith Family Focus, we're already into about I think we're on episode 45 in our 2nd season.
49 in this 2nd season.
Okay.
I do the promos and schedule the shows.
So and then the Huddle, we're on episode
15, I believe.
Yeah, right.
15 or 16, one of those.
Where'd you get that number that you mentioned earlier before? Or was that just us?
Because I do the promos, and every promo I have to say which episode it is. So that's how you know. There's stuff that happens before you show up on the show. I can tell that you are just the talent. I got like 4 different kind of waters over here.
I know.
But it is Black History Month. Wow, I cannot believe it came and went. February was like that. But Dad, why is Black History Month one of your favorite? I know it was my favorite in school because we got to study all the things I wanted to study. But tell us a little bit about why you like it. And then also, what was Black History Month when you were in school?
But wasn't it celebrated? like anything in Black history, wasn't celebrated. It wasn't anything that was on our radar as much as it is right now. You know, and I think if anything, I always obviously equate it to sports, which we'll probably get into because some of our Black athletes were very pivotal in bringing awareness and speaking out against injustice. I mean, the picture, the famous photo, video of Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, right, and there was one other, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, and Muhammad Ali was the beginning of athletes beginning to speak out and Black athletes beginning to speak out. I know later in the show we're going to talk about the impact on the Black culture has had on sports and how it has impacted our country. So, but it's always been something that I think as we have progressed over the years, we became more and more aware of it. I mean, look at Juneteenth, right? Up until like 2 or 3 years ago, that was not really on the radar, right, on the national level. We began to make more awareness to it. But now I just really want us to, as a country, to continue. You talk about this, I think you talked about this earlier, to continue, not just one month, but to continue to talk about the plight of Black Americans in our communities. The plague, the poverty, the crime, the dismal educational systems, all the things that are still happening, that we continue to have to really get a lens on, disparity, about all those different things. When we talk about coaches, that has to continue past Black History Month. So, yes, it's always been something that's been important on my radar, but I think as a country, with what has happened, especially this month, with the Super Bowl, bringing awareness to the coaches, and then, obviously the nomination of Ketanji Brown, who is the first female Black African American Supreme Court justice. We had obviously Thurgood Marshall before, but this is a historic one, but it has to continue.
Well, it should have happened a long time ago, but we dropped the ball as citizens a little bit for a while, for 4 years there. And one of the biggest things I think that I have seen in the last 5 years that relates directly to the Black experience in this country is the ability to vote and the willingness to vote. And like, that's a big thing you saw. We pushed forward, right? Is that's something we fought for before, right? It's something we weren't allowed to have. And now one of the things that people weren't voting because either they didn't want to, right? They didn't think their vote mattered, right? Voting, either there were voting sanctions put out there, hard for them to get voting, lines are too long, hours during times they work. So, we really saw it within the last, 2020, 2021, the Black experience in America shift directly towards being proactive in creating change and creating things to happen for not just, the Black culture, but also all BIPOC human beings, right? So Latinx, Hispanic, immigrants, right? Newly founded U.S. citizens. It's just all across the board, socioeconomically challenged. It doesn't matter. When we started to move that change to being more proactive in how we make change happen in comparison to speaking change. And I think that's what needed to happen. I think we dropped the ball a little bit there for like 8 years, because I think we elected Barack Obama to presidency. We thought we did it. We thought we achieved, but that gave 8 years for us. We can't get complacent with that. And so I think that we've seen us, rev it all back up a little bit within the last 3 years. And it definitely, you can see it present in how we celebrate Black History Month and how we celebrate Black achievement and contributions to society. That's really what it is, right? Black History Month is celebrating the achievements and contributions the Black culture has had on society, not just sports, not just music, not just this, that. It's all across the board, how it has changed culture in general for the American country. So, yeah, I mean, Yeah, that's what I think about when I think of Black History Month. Is it's right this month? I think is we're seeing it be. While last Black History Month it was enforced, right? We wanted it out there. We want everybody celebrating it. Every brand and television show felt the need to adjust it, correct it, educate on it. It was just a lot, right? Juneteenth, we were like, well, we're all so. It was so much, right? And so now I feel like we have done that initial one, and we know how to do it now. So we see a lot of brands, like you said, the Black History Always. I think that's something either Netflix or Hulu does. So one of the two, or in ESPN, I think they did it as well. Black History Always, we're celebrating for these 28 days, but we're celebrating through the months, right? We're acknowledging, educating, doing what we need to do to raise awareness towards Black achievement, because there is so much light shed on either Black failure or not acknowledging Black achievement in general. I think that's one of the biggest things is appreciating Black achievement when it is done, and not assuming that. Because here's the thing, this is something I was talking about the other day with some people, is that when a Black creative artist or someone creates something, right, it takes us so long to shine light on their talents, shine light on their contribution, shine light on the work that they do, right? Because we think that just putting their work out there is enough. But here's the thing, it's when you put their face out there, when you put their story out there, when you put their direct contributions in general out there, you're creating visibility and representation for their next generation who looks just like them.
Yeah.
So that's what I think we're starting to see with this month, is we're shining light on the young people who are contributing, the old people that are contributing, not just the past, but the present and the current. And I think that's what makes Black History Month so popular, is that we're taught about who W.E.B. Du Bois is, and we're talking about Martin Luther King, and we learn all that stuff, but learning about the present and the current, I think, is so much more influential, because we have these people for them to look up to, right? We have these younger generations seeing people in, the first Black woman speed skater to win gold since 1984. We have that for people to look at. So now we have a young lady who's 10 who can have the opportunity to dive into something that's completely different than what she's ever done because of representation. So I think that's what Black History Month is. We're watching it evolve from mandatory learning to highlighting and shining light on contributions and achievements, but current contributions and achievements of Black culture, which I like. I like how that direction is changing. You know what I mean? It's nice to talk about the past, but it's really nice to highlight what's going on in your moment right now,
I love it. Using for mandatory learning, it was selective learning, because they selectively taught it. It was selectively given to us, right? So we didn't have an opportunity, for all Americans to get a lens on movies like the 13th Amendment. I mean, there's so many people that have not had a lens on that,
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, is like, when I was growing up, it was always a joke. Like, I heard a lot of white kids say, well, why do you think Black History Month is the shortest month? Or isn't it funny how Black History Month is during the month that it snows the most? So funny. Like, but those are things I heard, right? And I was born in 1997. So it was kind of like along the lines of, there was a lack of respect for it in general as a month. And Black History Month isn't the only month that should be getting this amount of attention. Latinx American Month, Indigenous Peoples Month. There's just so many different months that provide us with the opportunity to learn more. And I think that was always the issue. We made Black History Month a thing, but we never educated through it. So it was kind of like, it's just a month, right? And so why should anybody respect it if it's not being handled the right way? And that was, I think, that was where we didn't have anybody really seeing the point of it all. And then everything happened, right? Like, everything happened in the last 3 years, and all of a sudden now it's like, put it to the forefront. But here's the thing, my question is, why do things have to continuously happen for us to make change happen for minorities? You know what I mean? Why did George Floyd have to die in a video and we all watched it, and then protest, then looting, then more killings, and then more, just all together? Why did all that have to happen in order for us just to be able to educate correctly, for the term systemic racism to occur, right? And start learning more about it. But I guess I'll ask you this, and you are a poli-sci and history major. Historically, in American culture, we have seen bad things happen before good things have to happen. What do you think needs to happen going forward for us to stay proactive and not have to wait on the bad thing to happen in order for us to adjust and change?
Well, you just said it. We have to stay proactive. We have to continue to push the narrative. It has to be a part of everyday living right now. It's got to be a dialogue. It's got to be in our curriculum. It's got to be in what we see daily, right? I mean, because one of the things that President Biden said, the Supreme Court now reflects the talents of the greatness of our nation, right? By having a Black woman on the Supreme Court, right? We got to continue to push that narrative that this is who we are as a nation. We celebrate, and I like you see you. So we celebrate BIPOC. We celebrate everyone, and that's we as a nation have not been able. We haven't done a really good job of it, you know. So we have to continue what you said. We have to be consistent. We have to continue to push the narrative. I know for a lot of us, a lot of people, it's uncomfortable, but you know, we don't get better. We don't develop unless we get uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah. And I guess I should ask you this, because now, and I love that he said that it's represented diversity. We've seen diversity work, right? Prioritizing diversity in the hiring process, prioritizing diversity in, you know, how you do interview process and select, you know, winners, and how we, you know, do our law and all types of things like that. Who is our public defenders? Who is this? Who is that? It really depends on diversity, right? And that will impact how the rest of everything else is a snowball effect, how everything else is connected. And it's just how prioritizing diversity, right? It's not just prioritizing the Black experience, but prioritizing diversity not only provides representation, but also provides a different perspective from each kind of person who's considered American, right? And that's really what matters at the end of the day. And that's how we started this country, is that we're leaving an unjust space with one ruler to form democracy. Democracy is all points have to be heard, but we can't be selective in who democracy serves and who it serves within democracy. But it's interesting to say, like, so I wanted to ask you a question is we have never really spoken on this, but the white experience in America right now, you see a lot of people, you have a lot of people who are frustrated with having to take second place compared to learning, educating, and all this, where the white experience often comes off as you have to admit to your privilege. You have to admit to your power. You have to admit to the fact that you've had years of unjust push forwards, right? And that's not easy for a lot of people. And that's why education has to keep happening, right? So they can see it's not about you. It's not just you. You are not the only person that it causes all the terrible things in the world, but your acknowledgement for your position and your acknowledgement towards the past is helpful to the future, you know. And
very well said. No, I mean, we're not talking about going back to affirmative action. Okay, we're not talking about that. I love the term that you use of acknowledgement. Just acknowledgement, and then begin to heal and educate and understand. And that's where you begin to have the openness to actually embrace change and learn.
Right. But it's hard because some people, and this is what Black History Month and Latinx Month and Indigenous Peoples Month, they remind you that race exists, right? And so for a lot of people, they don't want race to exist anymore, right? And there's this conversation is that I've been explaining to people is the term people of color and a person of color. And when you do that, it loops in people together, right? Instead of identifying the differences and the uniqueness and diversity within this group. And that's frustrating to some people, right? Because that's a 10 to 15 years ago thought process, right? Is that I'm calling you a person of color, because you are. Now the people of color are like, wait a second, what color am I? Going back to that. But also, I am nowhere near have had the same experience as my friend who is Mexican, or my friend who is Guatemalan, or my friend who is Dominican, right? Because everyone knows Dominicans are different than Mexicans, and Dominicans are different than Black Americans, right? There's a different experience within each of these, right? We have Afro-Caribbean, we have African-American, we have, right? So you have identifying a person's ethnic background is just as important as defining what language they choose to speak.
And
right?
that's why you do see color, because you're acknowledging. You're not by not saying I don't see color, you're not acknowledging what you just said, Face. You do see color, not in a negative way, but just in an acknowledgement of who that person and where that person comes from and what that person historically what they've gone through, right?
Right, 100%. And that's the point of it all. And that's where we're starting to shift now in today's society, is that Black History Month is about Black people, right? And it's not just about you and me, right? Which is a Black man and a biracial woman, right? It's about Afro-Caribbean people, right? It's about maybe there's a Puerto Rican young man whose mom is Black, of African, and his dad is Puerto Rican. Everybody comes from a different space and a different story and a different DNA, right? And because of that, their experiences and their stories and their memories can help us and positively influence how we treat other people and how we create, this world. I just finished watching Game of Thrones, finally, ended it. And they ended it with creating a democratic standpoint on how they do it. They elect a leader, you're not born into leadership, and each person has a contribution. While it still was flawed, because we have the same exact system here in America, even in today's society, it's just the idea of providing people the choice to choose who they want to elect, but also 7 different point of views, 8 different perspectives, right? 5 different personal experiences, right? You have a veteran, a non-veteran, you have a child, you have a woman, you have a man. That's what it is, right? And so in order for us to create the correct future and next steps, it's representing all people. So when you say people of color, when you say, I don't see color, that's completely contradicting everything we're trying to produce going forward, which is acknowledging how difference is a benefit.
Right.
And for so long, we said that, right? That doesn't make sense to me. How many times have you heard our differences are what brings us together? We hear that corny line all the time, but why is it we're too uncomfortable to say, I see who you are, instead of we have to say, oh, I don't see color. You do. You're a liar. If you didn't see color, who are you? You know what I mean? Are you colorblind? Can you not see? Because everybody sees that that's a Black man. That's a Hispanic woman. That's impossible for you not to see that. Maybe you don't know exactly where they come from. And then you politely ask, where do you represent? But when you say, I don't see color, it's like, I immediately am kind of like, why? What's wrong with it?
It's okay to look at me and see that I'm a Black man. Because by seeing it, by acknowledging that, you begin to understand who I am.
And why I am the way I am. And why, if you say this, it can make me feel offended, right? That's that when you're on a team, one of the things you do is they say to build those relationships so that you can, here's a better analogy. Before a recruit would come on visit at Duke, they would give us a sheet with the mom's name, dad's name, brothers, sisters, ages, names, interests and hobbies, what degree they wanted to get, who their best friends were, do they have a dog, what's the dog's name, right? So that you don't go into it. You have a young man who maybe doesn't have a mom, right? Let's use our situation. You don't go into it and say something offensive that you don't even know is offensive, but to that person, it's offensive, right? Or maybe the person's parents, we had a visit this weekend at K-State, parents don't speak fluently. They're Haitian. Maybe they don't speak completely fluent English. They speak French, right? But that's a Black person. And there's some Black people who still wouldn't get that, right? And so it's so important to see our differences and see what makes people individual, in order for you to be able to be a helpful coach, be a helpful teammate, be a helpful friend, be a helpful coworker, right? So you can understand why someone is the way they are. That's the whole point of acknowledging your differences, right? It just being a kind person, acknowledging you're different than me. How can I make you feel more comfortable in your differences, right? I like coffee, but you like green tea. Maybe I can get a tea machine or a Keurig sent to the office. Something along those. That's just the things that you do. You know what I mean? And the issue is that we have gone our whole lives conquering and leading from a selfish point of view. You know what I mean? We've always taught that is my way or the highway, that we never knew it was wrong to not hear to other people's perspectives. So, what is that, Apple Watch?
Yes. God, I should pivot on my watch.
Apple needs to sponsor you.
I've had for almost 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't wear it. I even know people still wear their Apple Watches. I never got on the trend. But yeah, it's just one of my things is acknowledging that color is not like why. Who the heck told you the color is a bad thing? I don't understand. Well, yes, we are not one color, but I'm saying in defining and letting me explain my ethnic background to you, and then you know how I want to be represented. I just think that's the right thing to do, right? Like this goes with gender as well, right? Black History Month, all these months that are dedicated to groups of people, right? They highlight and give us an opportunity to have in-depth and hard conversations about where our country needs to go and where the next generations need to take it. So we're talking about Black History Month and acknowledging someone's differences and acknowledging how someone wants to be treated and expressed and introduced and all the things that come with that. Okay, we can do the same thing with gender. We can do the same thing with all that's happening right now around us with the trans rights and all that Texas is putting out there in their sanctions and all that illegal stuff they're doing, because it's wrong. No matter what you believe in, right? It's not your point of view to arrest parents. Did you know this? They're arresting parents for abuse if their child has been open about being a transgender person. What? Like, no, what? And that's what goes back to my selfish thing. No matter what you think, what you believe, it's not your job, right? That's why we came to this country. It's why we started this country. It's not your place as a law makers to create laws that don't fit things that you personally don't believe in. That's not how it works. You don't believe in Black History Month and you're a CEO, you better move aside and not become a CEO anymore. That's where we are now. You're going to be in a lot of trouble because no one cares about your personal opinions anymore. We just do what is right.
Wasn't there a state, I think it was Arizona, that took a long time to celebrate Martin Luther King birthday? Wasn't it? One of them?
It wouldn't be surprising. I still don't really understand how that all works.
Right.
Because for a while, Martin Luther King, I remember we were in school for a while. Right. And then all of a sudden it became a presidential holiday is what they call them or whatever.
Right. But we've come a long way. You know what? One thing I know we want to pivot because this is kind of leading us into some other stuff that's happened this month relative to Black history. It's bringing more awareness to why we need. We shed a light on the number of Black coaches in professional football. Something else happened this month that was the first, and that's the halftime show at the Super Bowl that got a lot of controversy. And I thought, do I have a lot of rap music? No, but the fact that it celebrated a cultural thing, hip hop.
That's how we describe it. That's what it is.
Yes. And I thought, it was there was a lot of insensitive conversations around it. But it's wanted to get your opinion on it.
Oh, I got a lot of opinions. Who do you think is the number one consumer for hip hop?
White Americans.
What age do you think, and who? What gender?
I don't know.
Young teenage white men. Okay. We have always treated hip hop as this rebellious source of music, right? Whether it's from F the Police to rapping about drugs, to rapping about gangs, to rapping about peace, to rapping about support for women, for no matter what it is, we have spread hip hop across the world of all topics, and it's unified people, right? Whether you like it or not, it has. But because it is and has been created by Black people, right? Even though Eminem's up in there, it will always be deemed as something that is violent, aggressive, insensitive, and not relatable to the white experience. And I say the white experience because at the end of the day, that's what we have set our standard for art and creation in this country, right? Snoop, I'm just gonna start from the top. People were so upset that okay, Snoop Dogg everyone knows Snoop Dogg is a Crip, okay? He's a Crip. He's been part of the Crip gang for years. He's from LA. Like, Snoop Dogg is a Crip. We know he is, okay? We know Snoop Dogg has openly smoked weed. He does it with Martha Stewart. They have commercials for all of this stuff, okay? This is all a known fact about Snoop Dogg. We have let it all go. The man is transitional and he is beautiful, right? He's on commercials for Lay's. He's on the Super Bowl. He did the Olympics. He did this. Okay, so let's leave Snoop Dogg alone. But he came out in his blue Crip jumpsuit, tracksuit. I don't know if you noticed that, right? And I saw something on Instagram, which I'm so tired of seeing stuff like that. They're like, we did the research. The outfit that Snoop Dogg wore was representing a key influential murderous gang in LA. We know. We've known this since he started, right? We've known this. We know this about him. We know this about Dr. Dre. We know this about Eminem, even though he's not in a certain gang. We know Eminem. We know this about Mary J. Blige in her own ways. We know every single one of the people up there have come from a hard life, right? Snoop Dogg is no longer a leader in the Crip gang. We know that as well, okay? Do you think that Snoop Dogg went out there and wore that outfit because he wanted all the people in America to join the Crip gang and start killing people and selling drugs? No. Snoop Dogg could care less what you thought about his outfit, which probably cost $1,000. He could care less. And that's my biggest thing is like outside of the it's just we always want to find, and this is an older way of thinking because my generation doesn't care. We always want to find a way to make them violent, aggressive, offensive, insensitive, right? We always want to do that. But if you look at who Snoop Dogg is, like it goes down to the fact is because if your child is watching the Super Bowl and they see Snoop Dogg wearing that outfit and they Google why Snoop Dogg's wearing that outfit and then they decide that they want to join the gang in their suburban neighborhood because Snoop Dogg is wearing an outfit on Super Bowl, you got bigger problems with your parenting instead of your biggest problem with Snoop Dogg. Do you know what I mean? And that is the issue is we always want to blame other people and other cultures and other experiences. People we can't talk to, touch, or be with, right? We want to blame them for our inability to control our environment. You know what I mean? Like, that's an issue. We have to stop doing that. Like, the way they attacked their Super Bowl performance, why are you so angry? You're angry because these are Black men and women successfully performing in one of the biggest shows ever in the world the way they want to perform and the way they know how to perform and the way they have made millions and billions of dollars performing. That to me is exactly what we're trying to change, right? Because you feel offended, everybody should feel offended. And because you feel offended, you're going to do everything in your power to tear down something that you don't particularly know anything about. So that's my opinion. Eminem kneeled. Why did we not castrate that man? the way we tried to castrate Snoop Dogg's jumpsuit. Seriously. It's what? That is just so fitting. You know what I mean? They went out there and were completely on brand what they were going to do. Completely. No one in there performed anywhere different than they had ever in their entire lives.
Right. So from a cultural Black history, why was that so important? Because do I like to hear a lot of the cussing? Do I like to hear a lot of this? Not necessarily, but it goes past that. It's not. So tell me why it was important in our history that that show was performed at the halftime of the Super Bowl.
I just want to say one thing about the cussing and the using of the N-word, which belongs to the Black community, because the Black community encompass the N-word and the way they want to do it. And just because you can't speak it as a white person doesn't mean that anything in the world is going to end. You cannot tell Black people not to use the N-word because you can't use the N-word. That's not how it works. Just wanted to say that. But we had a president who said he was going to grab a woman by her genitals on tape on multiple occasions. But saying the A word, the F word, and the B word on halftime show is where we draw the line. From people who do it in their trademark songs. That's where we draw the line. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's all I'm gonna say. We can't pick and choose who we want to defend, who we want to attack. We can't do that. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say, because we elected a president who does just that. Okay, who also was one of the biggest sex trafficking rings ever. But with a Black cultural standpoint, just because it doesn't serve you, and this is something that maybe it's just my generation, maybe it's just me, just because it doesn't serve you particularly to what you like, and there's Black people who probably don't, I know Black people who don't use the N-word. I know Black people who don't prefer cussing. I know all of that, right? Just because it doesn't serve you doesn't mean it's not art, right? Just because you don't understand it. Have you ever walked in an art exhibit and you're looking at something and you're kind of like, that's ugly. But someone else walks beside you and is like, God, look at this masterpiece.
Right.
It's not our place, right? We have created a country built on opinions and freedom of speech. But we've been lost in the idea that freedom of speech means that my speech is better than your speech and her speech is smarter than your speech. And it's just, got lost in all that in comparison to understanding that every person has their own different perspectives on things. I thought that halftime show, and a lot of millennials thought that halftime show was amazing. We'll never see anything like that again. Right? We saw Michael Jackson. We tore up Janet Jackson for her performance, and that thing was amazing. Right? Like Beyonce, we're watching some of the greatest. This performance was up there with that.
Yeah.
Like, you'll never see a group of iconic, talented artists be able to come together and do a performance like that ever. You won't. Okay. We probably will never see Snoop Dogg perform again. Right? Mary J. Blige probably shouldn't perform again. I love her, but she's older too, right? 50 Cent. Did you see how hard it was for him to be upside down at that age? They're all old now, right? Like, they're all made millions and billions of dollars. They started their own companies. They're on this, they're on that. We're never going to see that again. So again, just because art isn't beautiful to you doesn't mean the art isn't beautiful.
Right.
And just because the art isn't beautiful to you doesn't mean you have to start yelling and being angry and running at people because they don't think the way you think. That was my thing. And I just was like, your perspective's not that important. It's not. It's hard for us to hear that because we're told, you're so smart, you're so intelligent, what you believe in matters. But yeah, that's all right for you. Don't tear down. I'm telling you this right now. If I had got upset because I did not want to watch the Bruce Springsteen halftime show, I didn't. I thought it was terrible. Does that mean that I should go yell at people and say Bruce Springsteen didn't represent the Black culture at all during his performance and that's why it was so bad? No. Do you know what I mean? Like, what?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Bring up Snoop Dogg's outfit. If your child doesn't have social media, then I understand. But if your child has social media, they've seen people get killed. They've seen people get robbed. They've seen car accidents live. They have seen nasty images of people's broken. Kobe Bryant's photos were on social media. Like, wrap your head around what we have access to on this thing. And the limitations for that are like 12 years old, 11 years old. So don't say that Snoop Dogg's outfit, what, like, should that man still be representing the Crips? No. But what? I did not grow up in the hood. I was never part of a gang. Who am I to tell him how to represent his childhood, how to represent his experience, how to represent his journey, his story, his stuff, when he has made it and achieved and created and has been married to the same woman and has all these successful children? Like, who am I to say Snoop Dogg is out here trying to jump kids into gangs? It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? That to me, and we always want to pull that out. And it's like, if you feel the need to say something about it, really check to see, why do I feel the need to give my opinion on this? Is it because in some sort of way I don't understand the gang experience? Gangs are wrong, yes. Joining a gang, super wrong. Gangs cause violence, yes. But you don't know anything about his experience in a gang. You don't know if he had to join the gang to make money for his family. You don't know if he had to join a gang because it was either that or die. You have no idea. You don't. You don't know. That could be a battle outfit for him. War hero for him. He made it out. He experienced something. So that's the thing. We always want to it's just too much. Why does your opinion matter?
So, yeah. And thank you. Those are powerful words, and thank you for sharing those. That narrative around the Super Bowl, because to me, I thought it was very important in our history. First time that in what was going on with the NFL, and
perfect.
It was perfect, right? And because it's the one professional sport that needs to come further to getting to where the NBA is getting. The WNBA is getting, when it comes to talking about putting a lens on equality, diversity, especially when most of the players are African American. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
We have time. Maybe we just do it for another show, but because we're at the end of the show. But I wanted to kind of share a little bit about some of the Black culture in sports and where we come and why it's so important. But maybe we could do it another time, or do we have time?
We could do it another time. We could definitely do it another time. Because we can tap, I mean, the postseason, once next week, we're going to probably talk about our tournament predictions. And even though I think that's a stupid idea, we have to do it. And we also, Juwan Howard will be back coaching for the postseason. That's another thing we could discuss. We also, because at the end of the day, Juwan Howard just physically, emotionally impacted Black culture on the game of NCAA basketball in a way that unfortunately happened, even though they both was wrong. He was super wrong. The more I see this slow motion dad, he really popped him. It was like you could see he dragged his eye socket. I said, man, what you doing? What are you doing?
Well, he got punished, right?
He got punished. We're gonna see how Michigan handles this. But yeah, so yeah, we can talk about that, and we'll talk about the whole entire Black culture on sports, because we're going to see, Iowa still has their unity patch on the back of their jerseys, and we all know Iowa only has like one Black kid on their team every year. So it's just gonna be interesting to see how in the tournament do we take Black History Month always through the tournament, right? What are we doing? The same way, remember when COVID happened and they wanted to continue to prioritize social injustice and stuff like that because they felt they needed to. I really want to see how the NCAA, which is a terrible organization, does it for this tournament. So We'll see. Good luck to them. And with all the stuff that's happening with the trans rights and human rights and woman rights and all together. I'm telling you, if you're not it's hard being a woman in this world, but it's definitely hard just being different. It's hard being different. It's hard being different. Did you see any of the sorry, I apologize. I want to say this and then we can close it. Did you see any of the women being outroared at some of the things that were said in the rap music during the Super Bowl? No. Come on now. It's not about us. It's not our moment for that. We have our moment. It's not our moment for that. So, but no, thank you everyone for joining us this wonderful morning. Happy Black History Month. What a wonderful, wonderful month we had. Again, thank you to Apple TV, Facebook, Roku, our key platform out of Phoenix, Arizona, E36 TV. Again, this is Faith Family Focus, where we use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others on shaking their own family core. And of course, our slogan.
Let go, let God. Let go, let faith. And let go, let love.
Everybody have a wonderful Monday. We'll see you guys soon.